All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wednesday episode of Geeking Out here on Gamers Geek Radio. I am your humbly amazing geek of all trades, master of none, Mike Monroe, and tonight's topic is a one of two-parters. We are going to talk about cartoons, the awesome cartoons we used to watch as a kid, and why they're not as cool as they used to be, but that's neither here nor there. Tonight's first parter, we're actually going to be talking about the amazing, now no longer available Saturday morning cartoons. So everybody pull up for a bowl of Gremlins cereal, Ghostbusters cereal. We'll talk about this later. Put on your awesome footy pajamas while we go down the line and introduce our awesome hosts. I'm going to start here with Travis. Go ahead and introduce yourself, buddy.
What's up, guys? Y'all know me. Back again. We're going to talk about something. It sits with me. It sits with me. It's close to my heart.
Okay. Now we're going to go back down the line. We're going to go to our buddy Chaz.
All right, what's up, everybody? Like Travis, this is a topic that is close to my heart as I grew up with cartoons on Saturday mornings, as I'm sure a lot of us did, and it is very depressing that we don't have them anymore.
And last but certainly not least is our illustrious host. If she would like to pop in and say hello for a moment.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Okay. Now before we get to that awesome topic, which we have lots of things to say about that, we're going to start out with a new segment where Chad is going to be talking about some cool music, maybe something to try out, listen to, something he likes. So we're going to turn it over to Chaz.
All right, everybody. Basically, what I'm going to do here is just talk for about couple of minutes about new artists or a new band that I may have discovered or a new album that I want to pick out and just want to share with everybody. So today, that album is Special Effects by Tech Nine, and you can find it at Best Buy, iTunes, Amazon, wherever. And basically, this is a monumental moment in history as it marks the first collaboration between Eminem and Tech Nine ever. And there's also some other features like Corey Taylor from the band Slipknot and Stone Sour, and a plethora of others. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say that it's not his best album, it's not his strongest, but I think if you took about half of this album and you combined it with something else, which is the previous album, you would have one hell of a monster of an album, and I think you definitely should go and check that out if you haven't. If rap's not your thing, then you're probably better off checking something else out. But if you're down with hip-hop, it's up there with some of the greats. Back to you.
Definitely endorse that. I definitely endorse that. I love Tech Nine. I'm a big Tech Nine fan. Special Effects is a great album to listen to. You should definitely pick it up. It's a great car ride if you're going on long journeys or you're just mad at work and you're just getting off of work. Pop in that track. It's perfect for that. It's perfect. I mean, it's not like KOF or not like Killer 9, but Special Effects is definitely up there. And it's not his best, but it's still up there. I definitely agree with you, Chaz, on that. I definitely agree with you on that.
So, there we go, and then if this goes off well, there's something we're going to do a little week, let Chaz take over for a little bit, talk about some great music. Now we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of tonight is awesome, is our two-parter about the cool cartoons we used to watch as a kid. Now, next week we're going to be talking about the before school, the after school, the syndicated type thing. But tonight we're going to talk about the stuff that we used to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to bug our moms for, is the awesome, sadly no longer available Saturday morning cartoons.
Now see, kids of our generation, like kids, Generation X, like the 90s kids, they know about the Saturday morning cartoons. These kids that are growing up after like 2004, they probably know a little bit, but they don't know all of it. And honestly, it's like one of those memes. It's like kids that weren't born in the 90s would not know about this. It's sad because Saturday morning cartoons was probably the one time that you had to look forward to of waking up in the morning. Forget going to school. Forget you try to sleep in all Monday through Friday. When Saturday came on, you were right there in front of your TV, 7 o'clock in the morning to about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and you had a big bowl of cereal in front of you with a ton of milk and a ton of cereal, and that was my childhood. I loved that. I personally love that. That was life for me for a long time. And CW had theirs, Fox had the Fox box, and Cartoon Network had theirs. But that's the morning run. That's early anime-ish. That didn't happen until about 2004, 2006, 2002 to 2004. That's when it kind of ended. But I love that was my waking up watching Power Rangers in the morning.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a little bit older than everybody else. I was born in '82, so I would consider myself almost that fine line where you can say you're an '80s kid and a '90s kid because I got to do both of them at the same time. Right. We didn't have the Fox box. Like I said, I'm way back in the day. I was a Fox Kids Club kid.
Yeah.
The early Fox,
that's that old school.
Oh yeah, I'm a little old school. This isn't fake gray hair to impress everybody. Now, we had some really cool ones during the weekend. I don't know if anybody's a Troma fan, Home with Toxic Avenger, things like that. Well, they had a series of movies called Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
I remember that.
And there was a couple of them that Troma actually had. Well, one we can talk about next week, but the one that he played on Saturday, that everybody that's seen Troma movies knows Troma movies are not for kids.
No, definitely not.
They're amazing movies, but they're not for kids. But one of two after the series that I remember from Troma that made an animated kids cartoon, and they were actually pretty good. The one on Saturday was Attack of the Killer of the Tomatoes, the animated series.
Yep,
I remember that.
And that's exactly what it was about. All these ragtag bunch of people and a little tiny fuzzy tomato. That was their little pet. Were fighting this mad scientist who was actually, if anybody, speaking of old school, anybody remembers Addams Family.
Yeah, I do.
The main bad guy was voiced by John Astin, who played Gomez in he was the main voice of the mad scientist, and it was them against the mad scientist and his evil tomatoes. They were different colors, different shapes. It was like he was very well with tomato segregation, which I did appreciate. There was the green ones, the yellow ones, the red ones. There was different sizes. He was an equal opportunity tomato guy against the ragtag bunch of people. And I remember one dude, he was a crazy dude with a weird pilot's hat, and he had a sword. And it was them against the tomatoes. And that was fun. It's kind of hard to find. If you can find that, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of quirky. I always got into that kind of quirky stuff. But the ones I watched on Saturdays, at least when they came on Saturdays when I was a kid, that everybody remembers, especially all three of us, there was two Marvel cartoons I used to watch constantly, and I still do, was Spider-Man, which that cartoon was amazing.
Yes.
And you already know, Kevin already knows which one I'm going to talk about now, and it's X-Men.
Yep.
Cartoon was so good. The theme song, you even start singing the theme song, everybody knows it, everybody's covered it in all kinds of music. And a lot of cartoons don't hold up. I've noticed that, especially a lot of the stuff I watched as a kid doesn't hold up, but by God, both those cartoons are still as good as they are now.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. You can, matter of fact, 2 months ago, you could still watch the 90s version of Spider-Man on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't watch it, I feel sorry for you because it was gone. I'm like, no. Now they have...
If you got Hulu Plus, you're in luck, because it is there.
If you have Hulu Plus, it is there. It is
this guy here does.
Well, lucky you. I don't.
I don't either. I got Netflix.
It's worth it. It's worth it for both of them. But I got both of them. It's worth it. You get basically every new and old show basically ever made, even the new stuff.
Sure.
But yeah.
I don't like commercials.
Yeah, that's the only bad thing. But yeah, those cartoons were amazing, and it was, especially if you're just getting into comic books at that young age, it was a really good way to introduce it without forcing it on you. And once you started reading the comics, after you started watching the cartoons, you saw that they integrated a lot of the main storylines from those comic books, good or bad, into the cartoon. As a matter of fact, I remember the last few episodes of the Spider-Man cartoon, they introduced the Clone Saga, and where he went through the multiverse, you had all the different clones. And matter of fact, Stan Lee, as much as he cameos now, love the dude, that's my guy. He actually had a cameo in the very last episode of the Spider-Man cartoon.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then
I kind of got choked up with that one. I'm not gonna lie, because that was it. That was the season finale.
That was it, and I was just like, man. But and then X-Men, they did what was it, Days of Futures Past? They did the Apocalypse Saga. So a lot of the big storylines, which I thought it was a cool way to introduce kids to comic books, was use. Obviously, some of it was nerfed because there was some, like if you saw Days of Futures Past, the movie, there was some of that they couldn't have put in the cartoon back in the 90s. But it was a good way to introduce kids to comics. Like,
it was a great way to introduce kids to comics.
If you want to go far back, Spider-Man cartoons from the 80s, I'm talking about like when I was
Spider-Man
like 3 or 4 years old. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, where you had Firestorm, which I think, if I'm correct, she was made for the cartoon and then became a member of the Marvel Universe, if I'm correct.
Yes, you're correct.
Yes, that's true.
And Iceman and a dog. And they all lived in an apartment that transformed.
They went to college.
Spider-Man.
They went to college together.
What an odd duo to pair up, though. Iceman and Spider-Man.
Yeah, and Firestorm at that. So you had fire, ice, and spider, which is three. Spider's a weird element. I don't even remember the dog's name, but I remember that was a fun cartoon. They did. But I remember they did. Do you remember the dog's name?
No, I don't. But Spider-Man was supposed to make up for the strength of the two.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was like ice, fire, and Spider-Man's strength. It was supposed to make up for that.
I can see that.
They did do cool episodes with that. They had an episode where they did visit the X-Mansion and Wolverine. I guess I'm used to hearing Steve Bloom. So when I watch it again as an adult, Wolverine's voice is a little weird because it's not Steve Bloom.
Right.
And I did also remember one of the best villains of all time. We talked about him a little bit Sunday. Dr. Doom was a villain in one episode.
Yep.
I think he made at least 2 appearances. I know I've seen Magneto.
It was a 2-part episode with the one with Dr. Doom.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
I know that for sure.
It's been a long time since I watched that.
I remember this was maybe about 5 years ago. If you watch Toon Disney, I don't even know if that's still around anymore. If you DVR'd
I miss Toon Disney.
If you DVR'd it at like 2, 3 in the morning, you would get that cartoon. You would have gotten stuff like Iron Man, where Uncle Phil was War Machine.
Yep.
But that was a syndicated one. But that threw me because I was like, well, that's also when I found out Uncle Phil was Shredder, and that blew my mind. But it didn't even register until a couple years ago because I watched both of those as a kid. I loved both those shows.
Well, Marvel had kind of its own continuity going because when you think about it, the X-Men, the Spider-Man, the Iron Man, and the Fantastic Four, which was like an hour block of cartoons on a completely different channel, and then you had Hulk, which came up on UPN, which is now the CW.
Right.
But back then you had the Incredible Hulk, and the continuity kind of carried over. They always had the same voice actors doing the characters in each show. Like when you watch Fantastic Four and Iron Man, those are the same voice actors that were in that Spider-Man episode where they're doing the Secret Wars story.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah. I mean, it didn't last, and it wasn't as strong as DC's continuity, which, by the way, started as a Saturday morning cartoon, Batman, the animated
series. Yep. Probably one of the best animated versions of Batman done.
It's one of the best animated cartoons, period, but I'm going to say that...
I don't want to say period. I don't want to say period.
Yeah.
Maybe comic book wise. Okay,
comic book wise, it is one of the best cartoons ever.
Yeah. But I can't say that all in general because there's a lot of good animated stuff out there.
And there's a really wide scope of things.
Yeah. And another cool thing that reminded me from Attack of the Killer Tomatoes was I noticed this more in the 80s and early 90s, not so much from about 94 on, was the influx is that if it was a movie, regardless if it was for kids or not, it was a cartoon. Right. TV shows were cartoons, and they even did things you wouldn't expect to be a cartoon. You could make a cartoon around it, would make a cartoon. Another one. Speaking of R-rated movies, now I've seen I do remember maybe an episode or two, but some of the ones that people forget were cartoons. RoboCop had a cartoon. Saturday morning
Yes, it
cartoon.
did.
He actually, matter of fact, I think he had. Was there two different ones, or was it two live-action TV shows?
No, well, they had a
They had a live-action TV show.
Yeah, but they also had two different cartoons.
That's what it was. Two different
90s.
cartoons.
I think once might have started in like '89, carried into the early '90s.
Something like that.
There was another one during the mid '90s.
Yeah. And another one that people may forget because, once again, this was like mid '80s. Rambo had his own children's cartoon.
That's true.
It
You know
didn't
what
last very
else?
long, but there was a Rambo and his commandos. He had a ragtag bunch of misfit commandos.
A lot of people don't really know it because it didn't catch.
No.
But there was actually a Tales from the Crypt cartoon series.
Tales from the Crypt
there
Keeper. I
was.
actually have that on DVD.
I think I've seen one episode of it my entire life.
He also had a live-action kids show on Saturday morning. It was like a game show, Double Dare type game show, where they actually got not only did the guy do the voice, they actually had the actual Crypt Keeper puppet talking on a video screen, and these kids were doing these weird Tales from the Crypt style games, like Double Dare type games, with the actual Crypt Keeper from the television show, goading him and teasing him and everything. And I was like, the wrong kid. That was creepy back in the day, because y'all remember Tales from the Crypt is not a kid show. It wasn't made for kids, but yet they decided, hey, if it's R-rated, we can make it animated, turn the blood into slime or whatever. Hey, kid show.
Pretty much.
That's exactly what
Chuck
they
Norris
did.
had a kid's cartoon back in the 80s. There was a Chuck Norris cartoon and comic book, and I think they went on about the same time.
Yeah, they did.
They both lasted
And
about as long.
They ended the same time too.
Probably
Yeah.
for good reason.
From what I
I
heard,
mean,
the comic
he went to do
were
Walker.
very good.
He went to do Walker Texas Ranger, and it was a influx over the whole Chuck Norris title and name between the comic book, the anime series, and him doing his own TV show.
Yeah.
So those two got dropped so that the TV show could be as big and violent as it wanted to be.
It was amazing.
Well, I'm glad they didn't do that to Jackie Chan.
Oh, I think
If he had a movie coming out, you'd better bet that his cartoon was still going to be coming on Kids WB and Saturday mornings.
Oh yeah, but speaking of what came on Saturday mornings, remember Mortal Kombat used to have its own series that came on Saturday mornings?
I do. It was called Defenders of the Realm.
Yup. And that went on for 2.5 seasons, and the second season did not get released.
I
highly
remember
upset.
I remember that because Ron Perlman was the voice of Raiden.
Yup.
That's awesome. I love me some Ron Perlman. Do you guys remember the Street Fighter cartoon? There was a Street Fighter animated series in the early 90s.
Oh yeah.
I do. They took elements of the game and elements of the live-action Van Damme movie and kind of ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good for Saturday morning kids. You know, if you was into Street Fighters growing up as a kid, as big as you are now, that was a iconic thing for you. But if you fell off and you realize when you got older, you're like, what the heck did they just do to this shit? Like, what is this? I don't remember watching this. What is this? This is no. I did not watch this when I was younger. I know I didn't. No.
All right, now I'm about to hit you with another one.
Uh-oh.
That also came on USA. That marks two cartoons that was on USA, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And this one was based on a comic book by Eric Larson. It was called The Savage Dragon.
I was just getting ready to say that because if anybody read the comic, and I have the first two compendiums of Savage Dragon, it was an awesome comic. Once again, comic book was not made for kids.
Nope.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
Bloody, violent, people were dying left and right. You never knew who. It was like The Walking Dead. You never knew who was going to die from one issue to the next. And see, I knew the cartoon before the comic. And I'm watching this, I'm like, this is kind of cool. He's rocking the mohawk. This is cool. And then I was like, all right, I'm reading the comic book maybe like a couple years ago. I got it from Midtown, New York City. Love the shop.
Right.
I was like, oh, Savage Dragon. I used to. Oh my god. And I was like, and I get it. They want to appeal to kids, so obviously they can't have people bleeding all over the place and dying. I get it.
No, what they did, instead of showing
They
like
had
the
their
gore
little
and stuff, what
effects.
they came up with, they had this one villain there that was really, really just gooky and creepy. It was just this dude made of leeches. And it was just disgusting. And for that to be on a children's cartoon on Saturday mornings, it was pretty cool back then.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it
I
was.
think his name was Leech, too, from the comic book, if I'm correct. I don't remember.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I
Personally, I never read the comic. I knew about it. So when I saw the cartoon, I was kind of like, that's awesome. Like, I used to read through Spawn comic books and see Savage Dragon in the ads and stuff like that.
Hell,
The
there
Spawn
was
count-
an issue of Savage Dragon
No,
where you had God fighting Satan. There was no way you could have put that on a
Yeah.
kid's cartoon.
No, not by any means. But on HBO on Saturday morning, Spawn the animated series did come on.
That's
So
true.
does that really count as a Saturday morning cartoon?
HBO,
I'll allow it.
It
something
came on-
out just
it came
because
on
it's on
HBO.
HBO.
It
And
came on
Spawn-
HBO
Yeah.
at what was it? 7. It was at either 7:30 or 7 o'clock. Spawn the animated series came on and it was fully uncut. Everything there. That was kind of a game changer for me when I had HBO as a kid growing up. I was like, Fox, HBO, UPN, Channel 3, because Channel 3 had like a lot of random. They had a lot of DC stuff on CW growing up. They had Justice League coming up. They had Batman anime series. They had what was it? What was it? Not Superman. Yeah.
They did have Superman, Batman
They had
Beyond
Superman.
too. I mean, these are all things
Yeah.
that started as Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Batman Beyond actually premiered 8 o'clock in the afternoon. That was on a
Yeah.
Friday. I remember that because I
I
had
do
to
remember
rush
the
home.
primetime debut. That's right.
I had to rush home and basically like threaten all types of hell out of people. Like I had to rush home to watch that one. I was mad. I was like, if I miss Batman Beyond at 8 o'clock, somebody
They
catching
debuted the
something.
first 3 episodes as a movie. I remember
Yep.
that. Primetime slot.
It was a primetime slot, and then it went to Saturday morning. Then it re-premiered Saturday morning. So if you didn't catch it on Friday night, you got to watch it Saturday morning. Because that took up a whole block because they took off Dragon Ball Z then. But it's all good because they was on Namek.
Yeah, and another thing, this was mainly more into the 80s, but, I mean, there was another thing you saw an influx of. This was actually a little bit of both between weekend and weekday. What you notice is that a lot of cartoons had toys, and a lot of times for either the cartoon or the toy line to be successful, you had to have both. Because I
Yeah.
saw toy lines that would have been cool, no cartoons, so they went nowhere. Or you had a cartoon like, oh, this is an awesome cartoon, no toys, gone. Like, I remember, I don't know if y'all remember, I don't know, I think I might be the old guy here. Laser tag. Remember when laser tag first came out, and they had the vest with the guns.
I had that. I still have that.
There was an actual Laser Tag Academy cartoon, and I remember this to this day. Had a catchy theme song, and what it was a girl. It was back in the day, you didn't have many girl main character protagonist girls, and it was
Right.
10 and 11, so it was roughly older than me, but roughly my age. And I want to say they were aliens of some sort, trying to take over the world, like aliens or goblins of some sort. I don't remember correctly because one of the cartoons in the 80s are hard to find anymore.
You're correct
And-
about this though.
She had the vest and she had the laser, and I swear to God, I wanted that so bad because that cartoon was so cool. I was like, I want that. My mom's like, no. But it was. I remember it being a cool cartoon. Another one that I wanted that I saw these in the toy stores a few years ago was My Pet Monster. Do you remember that cartoon?
I don't think I do.
My Pet Monster.
It was a blue, like it's kind of short, probably about knee high, but it was a blue fuzzy monster.
I remember seeing that in the toys. I remember seeing
Oh,
that in
that
toy
makes me
stores. I
think
remember
of
that.
Monsters Inc.
What it was a cartoon too, and I wanted it because the cartoon did its job and the commercials did its job because I wanted one so bad, never got it. It was a kind of like a blue, like a fuzzy monster, had like a little purple, little tuft of hair on top, and he came from a different planet or dimension because in the 80s it was all about planets and dimensions. And he came to small town America like every other cartoon with aliens.
Yep.
And the other evil creature was following him, trying to bring him back to the planet, and he brings the kids. He meets the kids, and the kids go on the adventures because the bad guy's chasing him and all this stuff. And I remember he had handcuffs. And whenever he was at school, as long as he had the handcuffs on, but once you took the handcuffs off, he would go crazy. And I remember the toys actually came with breakable handcuffs. Like you could attach them, and then you can just go like this, and the handcuffs would come off the monster.
I remember seeing this show.
Yeah. My pet monster. Doo-doo-doo. I remember.
I remember seeing this show.
Yeah,
I
it was
definitely
great.
remember seeing the show now.
Actually, I'm still drawing a blank, man. That might be just one of those things I missed growing up.
YouTube it. You're gonna remember it once you YouTube it.
Yeah, as soon as you YouTube it, you're gonna remember it. And you're gonna
Um,
remember that one episode where they couldn't get the where he wouldn't calm down. He was just wrecking through like a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
What we're
that.
gonna do now? We're about 9:30 or so. Travis, you want to
Yeah,
go ahead
we're
and
gonna do
give
shout-outs.
a shout out list for us, please?
Yep. All right. First on the shout out list is I Love Batman, the Intergalactic Geek Alliance, the Bat Cave by Intergalactic Geek Alliance. Let's see here. 360 Boss Players Only, Gamer Geeks, Geeky Gamers United, Gamers Geekery, Lady Venom's Lair, Bad, Good, and Uglies Are Us, and The Rabbit Hole.
Okay.
Was that all?
Chaz,
Yep.
you want to throw down some shout outs if you got some?
Absolutely. The Citadel, those are the people that I usually have coming and checking out the videos afterwards. And, of course, the Promenade for their unflinching support of Gamers Geek Radio.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I'm actually a member of a
full
handful of these
list here.
groups on Facebook, so if you guys are interested, definitely check them out. That's where I met most of these people I talk to now, and they're a great group of people, and you're going to see a lot of these same people on all our different shows. Now, back to topic. There was one thing. There was another cartoon I remember that was a Saturday morning, if I remember correctly, that was based on a video game that had nothing to do. There was another thing they had an influx of was there was video game-based cartoons back in the 80s. You had Donkey Kong. You had Q*bert.
Yep.
Q*bert was a
Yep.
cartoon. And I remember Q*bert, for some reason, had a Hispanic accent,
Yep.
which
This
made
is
no
entirely
sense.
true.
Yep. Great
This is
game.
very, very true.
But for some reason, Q*bert sounded like Danny Trejo for some reason. No idea why. And I think Danny Trejo...
Mario Brothers had a cartoon.
Oh, Mario Brothers had 7 cartoons.
Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
And a live action movie.
The one I
And
want
a
to
live
get
action movie.
that, but for the most part, other than Danny Trejo playing Q*bert, most of the cartoons was in the same universe as the cartoon. But the one that threw me, and I don't know if you all played this game because this game was an Atari arcade game, was Pole Position. Did you remember Pole Position, the video game?
That might be just a teensy-wincy bit before my time.
It was
I'm
like
an
one of those.
86 baby.
Yeah, it was an IndyCar game. You remember Pole Position, Travis?
Pole Position.
It was a racing game. You were just like a Formula One race car going down the street.
Oh, the one that was in arcade.
Yeah, it was the wheel.
Yeah.
It had a cartoon, and it had nothing to do with the video game. It was almost like Speed Racer because it was a group. Like Speed Racer, Pole Position.
Oh,
and
man.
what it was a bunch of kids, and I want to say they were being chased by some sort of evil robot or alien or some sort.
Yeah.
But it had nothing to do with indie racing. They were all in their awesome souped up cars that had nothing to do with indie cars.
Had nothing to do with it at all.
Nothing to do with the video game, but they had the license like screw it. no more Indy cars. You're getting chased by aliens now.
Right.
And I was like,
what is it? There was speaking of racing, Wacky Racers.
oh yes, love that cartoon.
Saturday morning cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Jabberjaw. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but
I remember my
Scooby-Doo,
mom hated
Where Are
Jabberjaw,
You?
so I loved it even more.
Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Had so many rip-offs of teenagers trying to go out, solve mysteries. Jabberjaw was one. Josie and the Pussycats was
That was
another
the shark, right, with the hat?
Yeah,
Yeah. Speed
Laugh
Buggy
Olympics.
was another one.
remember the Laugh Olympics?
Laugh Olympic.
Oh, man.
Talking about some throat. We're over here getting into deep. We're taking it back. We're taking it deep. Somebody's in their fields right now. I know somebody's in their fields. But after, like, you know, we got past all that. Like, you had the Jetsons, you had the Flintstones, you had the Flintstones, like, after, like, when Pebbles and Bam Bam grew up and they were teenagers.
Yes.
They were teenagers.
The Pebbles and Bam
Fred
Bam
was
show.
Like Fred was old.
You want to know how far they took that? There was a prime time Pebbles and Bam Bam show where Pebbles had twins.
Yep.
She got pregnant.
Yep.
And I remember that. I watched it one time. It was on primetime television. Remember watching it once. She had twins, and it looked like Bam Bam from the Flintstones with red hair and Pebbles from the Flintstones with white hair. They just switched the hair colors.
Yep.
I remember that.
That was it.
They got Pebbles pregnant on the Flintstones. But
Things they get away with back then that they wouldn't get away with today.
Oh no,
this
Tom
was
and
like
Jerry
early
by
90s,
themselves. Tom and Jerry by themselves got away with more gratuitous cartoon violence than anything can get away with now.
Yeah,
Anything.
Looney Tunes. Look at all the Looney Tunes stuff. How many times did Daffy Duck get shot in the face?
And it's ironic because now we're in an age where we get away with stuff like The Walking Dead on TV, and you got them dropping the S-bomb every 20 minutes in that show.
I mean, and if you want to go obscure cartoons based off licensed stuff,
Yeah.
anybody remember Teen Wolf, the animated series?
Oh my
man.
gosh.
And I'm not talking about the MTV show. I'm talking about the Michael J. Fox playing basketball.
Yeah, yeah.
That's old.
That's really old.
Makes me feel old. A lot of this stuff makes me feel old.
Like,
I was trying to stay a little bit young. I was definitely trying to stay young today, and that just did not work at all.
if you want to go old, how about Alf, the animated series, where he still lived on Melmac?
Oh my god. Talking about Alf, the animated series, and you have to bring up the Muppet Babies.
You gotta bring up the Muppet Babies.
Still the Muppet Babies. When the world is kind of weird and you wish that you were there.
Oh my gosh.
That was my cartoon.
Oh, speaking of ripping art, so you got Muppet Babies.
Yeah.
And you had the Looney Tune Babies.
Vaguely remember. I think that might have been a little bit
Baby
past.
Looney Tunes?
I remember watching a few episodes, but I think that was past my initial cartoon not watching phase.
Anybody else remember Animaniacs, Freakazoid?
Oh, that was my afternoon stuff.
Freakazoid, Tiny Toons. Tiny Toons.
Flintstone Kids, when Fred and
Tiny
Barney were
Toons was
children.
made by Bruce Timm, who went on to make Batman. So
Yeah,
that's what I remember.
Do you remember the Flintstone Kids?
Yes, I remember Flintstone Kids where Fred, Barney, Wilma, Betty, they're all kids. Dino's a puppy.
Yo Yogi.
Oh, Jesus.
Yo Yogi, that's right. It was a young Yogi Bear.
Yep, trying to look cool because he was wearing the hipster fedora back before it was cool. He was uber hipster.
Hey, man.
Oh, no, it's
fedora.
You're good.
No, the fedora rocks. The fedora rocks.
Or here's the one. If you're talking about Scooby-Doo, we can't go past Saturday morning cartoons without talking about a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Oh, no, we definitely can't. Where Fred was a complete, unsupervised unknow-it-all, because I say unknow-it-all because he thought he knew everything and he just got shut down every single time. And Velma just happened to know, like, Velma could cure cancer.
She had the little feet too. She had the little...
She had that, like, yeah. Velma could cure cancer. I swear she could have.
Do you remember the bully's name that never did it every episode?
What is it? Stink.
Nope.
Steiner.
Red Herring.
Oh yeah, there we go.
The kid they always
I
blamed.
think it's thinking it from.
His name was Red Herring.
I'll tell you, some of these cartoons we're talking about now, man, I haven't seen since I was at least 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, yeah.
I remember them, but my memories of them are sketch at best.
I'm about to blow your mind again. If you want to talk about obscure ones, then you know me.
Oh dear God.
The more you know me, I'm the master of obscure. How many of you remember Denver the Last Dinosaur?
Well, you got me there.
The last dinosaur, he's my friend and a whole lot more.
There was one that was pretty obscure, though. I remember it because it always came on WGN, and that was Captain Simeon and the Space Apes.
You got me beat on that one. I have no idea what that is.
It was
really Street cool. Sharks?
Oh, yeah!
Yes, I remember them. And then you had Biker Mice from Mars and SWAT Cats.
Oh, yeah. I had the video game for that, for the Super Nintendo, yeah. For the Super Nintendo. I had Biker Mice from Mars, and I demolished through that game. Oh, SWAT Cats.
Oh, come on.
SWAT Cats, yeah. I hear they're trying to bring that back, actually.
They're trying to bring it back.
I heard, I saw this too. They're doing a Kickstarter to bring a new version of SWAT Cats back, and it looks cool. I've seen like that. They're showing like some of the art style they're doing. It's kind of looked more sleeker than the original cartoon did. I wish I could find that. If I would have thought about that, I would found a way to link that so everybody can check it out. From what I heard, they're doing well, and they're giving away cool prizes depending on how much you want to put forth, like actual like art pages. Yeah, contribute. They're doing like actual art pages for the new SWAT Cats and a lot of cool autograph stuff. So if you guys look for SWAT Cats on, I believe it's Kickstarter, or is it Indiegogo?
Yeah, it's definitely it's either Kickstarter or GoFundMe.
Yeah,
one of those. Definitely. If you go to Google and you search for SWAT Cats Revival.
Yeah. But if they had to go any way with SWAT Cats, I would rather them go the animated route like they did with Megas.
It looks cool. I saw some of the art style they're doing. It looks great. It's still they did a little update to the style, but they still look the same.
Right.
And I was like, if this comes around, I'm poor, so I can't contribute. But if this comes around, I will definitely buy the DVDs or watch it somewhere. It does look really cool.
Oh yeah, I will definitely watch it.
Shout out to the guys that are trying to put that together. Now, I do want to do a segue into the cereals. And I want to do a cartoon that I remember, because back in the day, I always wanted a mohawk as a kid. One of the reasons was, as everybody knows, I'm a huge wrestling fan. My all-time favorite tag team is the Legion of Doom, or the Road Warriors.
Oh, okay.
And me and my best friend, we always used to wrestle with each other, because everybody wrestled when they were kids. Yeah. I was always Hawk. He was always Animal. I'm sorry. He was always Hawk. I was always Animal. Animal was the one with the mohawk down the front. Hawk was the one down the sides. I wanted a mohawk. My mom said no way in hell. But it was Animal that I always wanted a mohawk, and Mr. T. I always wanted to be Mr. T when we played the A-Team. Wrong pigment. I was not final Mr. T, but I always wanted Mr. T. Mr. T had a cartoon back in the day during the height of his popularity, and the crazy thing, it had nothing to do with the A-Team. It was Mr. T and a bunch of gymnasts, children gymnasts. It was a gymnastics team that went around solving mysteries.
Yep.
And another thing I want to talk about tonight is licensed cereals. And Mr. T's cartoon had its own cereal. And anybody that's ever seen one of my favorite movies from the 80s, Pee-wee's Big Adventure,
yep.
And you watch the beginning of the movie, he had that Rube Goldberg-looking breakfast thing. He had Mr. T's cereal. And he used to go, I pity the fool who doesn't eat my delicious cereal. And anybody that remembers, I remember this, it was Captain Crunch. All it was Captain Crunch. And the only difference was it was shaped, all the little pieces were shaped like T's. I used to eat it all the time. Like,
there was a special edition where they threw in marshmallows in there. You remember that, right?
That one I don't remember. I do remember the normal Mr. T.
No, see, that's
They had
exactly
a edition
like
and
Batman
marshmallows.
cereal.
Yeah, they had Batman cereal. They had
Yep.
like see, they used to have if once again it was just like the cartoons and the toy lines. If you could license it, you could make it a cereal. You had Batman. There was a Gremlin cereal. There was Ghostbusters.
Yep. Those
How can you forget like the flagship cereal of all cartoons, Cocoa Pebbles and Fruity Pebbles?
Right there.
I mean,
We didn't forget about
the
them. We
mascot
didn't forget about
is
them.
Barney
I was about
Rubble.
to bring those up. I didn't
Even
not forget
today,
about those.
even today is
Yes.
Barney Rubble.
The Jetsons had a cereal.
The Jetsons.
The
Nintendo had a
Jetsons had a
cereal.
cereal.
The Nintendo Breakfast Entertainment System, I think it was called, and it had 2 bags inside it. There was a Legend of Zelda cereal
Yeah.
and a Mario Brothers cereal, and it was 2 separate bags. And the one I used to eat all the time because I was in the prime heyday of its when it first came out, and I had no bull. I would go through an entire box in a weekend, every weekend. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had a cereal.
Yep.
And all the
Basically, wasn't it
was
basically like Lucky Charms, kind of?
yeah, exactly. It was exactly Lucky Charms. You had all their weapons were the marshmallows, and then they used like the Crispix Chex looking cereal. Oh, those are Ninja Nets.
Yeah, Ninja Nets. That's
They were
right.
Ninja Nets, and it was basically like Chex or Crispix or something. But it was like Ninja Turtles. Oh, they licensed everything. When I was growing up, if my mom saw it had Ninja Turtles on it, I had it. I was at the prime heyday of Ninja Turtles. But I cannot wait to talk about those guys next episode because every day, I'm all about the Ninja Turtles. And of course my sister had her Barbie and her other, I think New Kids on the Block even had a cereal, but you know, you gotta appease both demographics. Do you have any final comments about cartoons, the cereal, the cool things we used to do when we were kids on Saturdays, Chaz?
Man, I just remember eating like the great ones, you know. I mean, not even just licensed cereals, but just associating cereal with Saturday morning cartoons. And I would be sitting there at 7 o'clock in the morning with a box of Cookie Crisp watching X-Men and Spider-Man and, you know, Eat the Cat, and then you had Bobby's World coming on after that.
Oh, I love that cartoon.
And it just, you know, when you think about the cereal, it helps you remember the other cartoons on it. Like,
Dude, Bobby's World was legit. I love Bobby's World. We need a cartoon like Bobby's World now.
that kid had a bigger imagination than the Rugrats, and he was older than them.
Yeah, for real.
That was a cartoon. I'm going to touch on this just for a second. That was a cartoon that touched some deep subjects. They explained death on one episode. You remember?
I remember that, the crossing guard.
When his goldfish died.
No, not the goldfish. There was an episode where, you know, he went to school. There was a crossing guard.
Yeah.
There was an old man crossing guard. And the old man crossing guard, they went through the episode. It was one of those characters you never saw. He was like, oh, da-da-da-da-da. He dies. Bobby's like, oh, where's he at? His mom and dad had to explain to Bobby where people go when they die.
I remember that episode.
And it was kind of cool how it ended. Like, I think it was either his mom or his dad was walking him across the street, and it pans up, and you see the crossing guard in heaven as an angel playing the harp, waving at Bobby. It was
Yeah, I remember that.
One more thing, we're actually going to debut another segment before we go for the evening. Is my baby? I've been working on this for a while. It's going to be called what we like to call Under the Rug. And what I'm going to be talking about is maybe it's a cool show, a cool movie, cartoon, that sort of thing that I think has been overlooked, underrated, or swept under the rug. And what we're going to talk about, since we're talking about kids shows and everything, everybody remembers the family shows like Another World, Step by Step, Malcolm in the Middle, you know, the good family shows. Well, what if I told you there was a movie that came out around 2005 that was an American Pie style movie that had people from Another World and Step by Step doing American Pie type stuff, with Wayne Newton as a cameo.
There you go.
Travis has seen this. I know Chaz hasn't seen it yet, but well, I'll explain to you guys how you can watch this. It's called Who's Your Daddy? And basically what it is, you had this guy, he was a normal, dorky, picked-on kid, and matter of fact, shout out to Ohio, it took place in Xenia, Ohio. He was a normal, his mom and dad worked for the grocery store, and he's, oh, I need to make friends. I sit in the table, the misfit table. You had the foreign exchange student. You had the normal kid who went on to play Mark Starr, who was in all the Judd Apatow movies. And then you had the kid who changed his identity every scene. He was the goth, he was the stoner, he was the everything. So what happens is that he's sitting at dinner at home one night, and he gets a knock on the door from a lawyer named Michael Hunt. He prefers Michael, who finds out that his parents had died, and he finds out not only was he adopted, when his parents died, they left him the full inheritance of the Heaven magazine empire. Now, when you watch this movie, you find out that Heaven is what is I like to call not Playboy. So all of a sudden, he goes to him and his best friend, who was in that movie called Angus, which is another cool movie. They go to LA to sign the papers. Come to find out, he goes from being this loser, picked-on kid to a kid who's worth $85 million, and he finds out his dad was Wayne Newton. So Wayne Newton, I saw him live. Dude's amazing. And so, yeah, if you watch this movie, it's like, oh, the kid. It's almost paint by numbers. It's most of the same movie. He finds out he's rich. Everybody wants to be his friend. He loses his friends, and he makes them back by the end of the movie. But what I like about it is that it's paint by numbers, but you can tell that they actually had fun with it. They put their time into it. Like, there's a scene, obviously, you would assume that with a movie, and it's rated R, you would assume that with it, that there's going to be all kinds of nudity because, oh, Playboy, boobs, cuz Playboy. And I know Travis has seen this, and I think it was, maybe one scene for maybe 3 seconds?
Yeah.
That you did see boobs. But what I did like about it is that there's another movie called The Girl Next Door. I'll get to that one in another time. That it's about an adult. Yeah. Oh, trust me. I'll be talking about that movie too eventually.
Okay.
But Who's Your Daddy? There's a movie where you think there's gonna be a lot of boobs. It's Playboy. But the cool thing is they didn't resort to it. They used the R rating for all the humor with it. Like you had the wonderful. I love her in the movies. Lynn Shay, who people might remember as the landlady from There's Something About Mary. She's been, was it Insidious? Was the movie series she's currently in?
Yep.
And she was also the teacher in the original Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Wonderful actress. She actually played it was within Wayne Newton's assistant or secretary. And the funny thing was, bless her heart, she's in the movie. Every time she's in the movie, she's dressed in skimpy lingerie that's dressed exactly like all the other women in the movie are. And she played it wonderfully. She was wonderful. And of course, you find out that, oh, shocker, the lawyer's the bad guy. And not only that, Wayne Newton's brother, Uncle Dunky, is played by William Atherton, who was in, you might remember from Biodome, if anybody's been brave enough to watch that. Or he was also the jerk in Ghostbusters. Shout out 30th anniversary, shout out to Ghostbusters. Yep. So it's kind of surprising that William Atherton, who's always a bad guy, and the lawyer are the bad guys. Shocker. So basically what happens is he comes back home, he's rich, he's throwing the money around, he loses his friends, and then he finds out, oh wait, I'm getting ready to lose the magazine. Crap. And then he realizes, hey, just because you're rich, you don't have to lose your friends. Right. And shocker, spoiler, because it's like every other movie, everything turns out fine. He saves the magazine, he keeps his friends, he gets his girlfriend, he gets everything back. So I do highly recommend this. It's a funny movie. I mean, if you don't like the American
Pie-esque.
Yeah, it's probably not your thing. This came out in 2001, but it wasn't released, I want to say, until 2005. But if you like those kind of movies, it's definitely worth a shot. I found it for $10 on DVD, but excuse me, if you happen to have an Xbox 360 or anything to the access of Fright Picks, the downloadable movie app, or I believe it's called Popcorn Flicks. They're both free downloadable apps with a bunch of lower budget movies or any kind of cool movies you may see. I know Fright Picks actually has it as one of its movies, even though it's not a horror movie. So not only can you download the app for free, you can watch the movie for free. So I'd say go out there, watch it. It's 90 minutes. Good movie. funny movie. You're going to see guys from, like I said, a different world, step by step. So it's kind of cool throwback to the shows we watched as a kid. You see it come back to a little bit. It's almost like they grew up and did a grown-up movie. So next week we're going to talk about the weekday cartoons. You're talking about before school, after school, the cool syndicated stuff.
Transformers.
Yes, Transformers. We're gonna talk about G.I. Joe, Batman, Animaniacs, all the cool stuff. So do you got any final things you want to throw down, Chaz, before we go?
Just like I said earlier, I like to give out props to the Promenade because they support Gamers Geek Radio. They always have, as far as I've been in that group. And the Citadel, which is a much smaller private group, but they come out to support me and they check out the show. So I appreciate that. And I'm going to give it back to you, Travis.
I want to give out these pages because they've supported us and they've followed us and we follow them back. Once again, it's I Love Batman, the Intergalactic Geek Alliance, the Batcave by the Intergalactic Geek Alliance. I know there's an Avengers Mansion by Intergalactic Geek Alliance. So, yeah, that page is getting shout out too. Xbox 360 Boss, United, Boss Players Only, Geeky Gamers United, the Geekers Gamery, Gamers Geekery. My bad. I apologize. Lady Venom's Lair, Bad, Good, and Uglies Are Us, and the Rabbit Hole.
And I'm gonna actually, like I said, I'm a member of some of these groups too. They're all awesome people. Check them out. Look for them. That's all I have for this evening. Like I said, if you have any, actually, Gamers Geek Radio also does have a Facebook page. So come follow the page. Yep, they'll let you know when any of the new episodes come out. We do podcasts, different hosts and guests throughout the week. It's a good way to keep updated for the conversations we're going to have. You want to leave comments, maybe like show ideas, comments of upcoming shows you're going to see. That's all I have for the evening. So I want to give big thanks to everybody that was here for this evening.
Yeah, again, those links on Facebook, you can find them if you search for Gamers Geek Radio, Gamers Geek TV, and also don't forget to check out our illustrious founder here is Lady Rage. So be sure to check that out and like all those pages and keep on keeping on.
Thanks a bunch, guys, and we will see you next week with more awesome cartoon talk. So until then,
see you later.